Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And in this episode, we're going to find out who would win in a fight between Power Girl and Valkyrie. Now, we know Power Girl is like an alternate universal variant of Supergirl, who kind of came into her own in the JSA. And then Valkyrie is a long-standing Defender Marvel character who recently died and bestowed her powers upon Jane Foster, formerly the Mighty Thor. Of course, we're doing this episode in lead up to next week's episode, which will be a review of Thor: Love and Thunder, which features Jane Foster as the Mighty Thor.
Yeah, the whole Jane Foster as Valkyrie thing is pretty new in the comics, so I don't think a lot of people realize that she's the new Valkyrie now that Thor got his hammer back. And I'm not even sure what she does. So I'm looking forward to learning more about her later on in this episode, since we'll be breaking down the characters' histories and abilities before speculating on how a match would play out between the characters before we run stats to find out who would actually win.
Yeah, before that, we're going to go over the latest comic book movie news to have come out in the past week, including our first look at Tenoch Huerta as Namor the Submariner in the upcoming Wakanda Forever movie. If you guys haven't seen that leaked image of him, definitely Google it. It looks badass. We'll be talking about it. We also got our first trailer for Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons, which is an animated DC film that's coming out later. And also we got a trailer for Season 3 of Harley Quinn on HBO Max. As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic. Don't forget to join us on Patreon, where we offer ad-free episodes of the show, bonus content including top 10 episodes and bloopers, monthly live movie watch-alongs, and access to our Discord chat server. Check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, linked in our show notes. Our lowest tier is only $2 a month, and it's only $10 a month to become an executive producer and help us determine which episodes we do. Yeah, guys, please support the show. But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize.
A No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award we post on Instagram for the person that we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was in regards to the news that Marvel will be making an appearance at San Diego Comic-Con this year, having their own Hall H panel. We asked, what surprise do you hope gets announced in Marvel's San Diego Comic-Con panel? Got a lot of answers. Let's go down our honorable mentions as well as the No Prize winner.
Our first honorable mention goes to Marquis High, who said,
all right, gents, I will have to say that the Fantastic Four should be making a showing during this Comic-Con. They were slated to be involved in this phase. Oh, yeah, sorry. This is Marquis, Mark 1684 and all that. But yeah, Fantastic Four all the way. That's what I want to see. Yeah, like that. Love the show. Keep on talking that stuff. Yeah. Peace.
Of all the ways to fill time to get to the 30 seconds, that had to have been the best. That little riff at the end made my day. But yeah, what? Zippa.
Damn it.
No, sorry, man.
Okay.
But with the Fantastic Four movie likely to come out within the next few years here, this is definitely their opportunity to announce those big names.
Yeah, especially now coming off of Doctor Strange 2, where we got to see John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. I'm pretty sure Emily Blunt is going to be Invisible Woman, but I'm curious to see who will play the other two Fantastic Four members.
And I'm curious to see if they actually tap John Krasinski to direct Fantastic Four, considering his success with the Quiet Place films.
Ah, yeah, totally.
Our next honorable mention goes to Benjamin Alvis, who said,
hey, John and Joe, I would like a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 Volume 3 teaser trailer. I'm all here for it. Or for the Christmas special. I want to find out about Adam Warlock. I want to see what's in store, because like right now, Love and Thunder hasn't come out yet, and I have no idea what's going on with the Guardians. So I'm so excited for that movie. Thanks.
Well, by the time Comic-Con happens, Thor: Love and Thunder will have already come out in theaters, so I think people will be on that high of seeing the Guardians again. I think it's a very likely chance that we'll get a trailer for the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, not necessarily Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because that movie is not coming out until next year, and is probably too soon for a teaser at this point.
Yeah, Marvel actually hasn't been releasing trailers too far in advance of their films. Like, we got like the Thor Love and Thunder trailer pretty late, and we still don't have a Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer yet. So I'd be surprised if we got something like the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 this early. But you're right. Christmas special, I could totally see it happening.
Our final honorable mention goes to AJ Dunkerley, who said,
"What's up, guys? AJ here. All right, here is my ideal game plan for Marvel for SDCC. I think we're going to get the official announcement of who is going to be the Fantastic Four, other than John Krasinski, of course. We're going to get a official trailer for Secret Invasion. They're going to announce a shit ton of projects, possibly an X-Men project. And we're going to get the announcement that the Inhumans are returning to the MCU, but recasted other than Anson Mount. Thanks."
All right, we already touched on the Fantastic Four announcement, but AJ brings up some other good options with a trailer for Secret Invasion, which they've definitely already filmed and is probably the upcoming Marvel television show after She-Hulk. And his guess about Inhumans, well, I don't think is going to happen. Would certainly be awesome if it did, considering we also saw Anson Mount as Black Bolt in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It would be really cool to see him come back and have them do the Inhumans right this time. I think all those options are great. So thanks, AJ Dunkerley, for the answer. We want to give a big thanks to Lou, George Abelson, Brandon Estergard, and John Starosky for visiting our website and leaving their own answers and taking the time to do that. We really appreciate hearing from you guys. But the winner of this week's No Prize goes to Miranda, who said,
"Hi, I'm Miranda. I'm calling you from Argentina. First time leaving a message, but I've been listening for a while. I hope one of the announcements has to do with the more supernatural side of Marvel, because we know that Blade and Black Knight are coming, and we had Moon Knight as well. I would love a Midnight Suns announcement, maybe a movie or a series. And also because of the rumors of Keanu Reeves meeting with Marvel. Who knows, maybe something related to Ghost Rider. We will see. Bye, guys."
Wow, thanks for calling from Argentina. I think this is our first answerer from Argentina. That's really cool to hear. But yeah, Midnight Suns, that would be fantastic. Of course, we have the Blade movie coming out. We've already had Moon Knight, as Miranda said. Black Knight with Kit Harington has been introduced, and of course we have Doctor Strange. So we have a lot of pieces there for the Midnight Suns puzzle, and I think that'd be really awesome. She also mentioned Keanu Reeves, and while Keanu has not been specifically attached to any Marvel project that's been confirmed, it has been stated by Kevin Feige that they pretty much go to Reeves for almost all of their projects, just trying to get the right role for him. And Keanu Reeves has also expressed interest in working with Marvel. But it was kind of like their situation with Jake Gyllenhaal, where they kept coming back to him over and over for different parts, and it didn't really fit until the Mysterio role came along, and it just worked out for the best. So while they have been courting Keanu Reeves, we don't know for sure if he's going to be in anything like Johnny Blaze or whatnot. But I think he'd make a great Johnny Blaze. And if they would put him into Midnight Suns with the other characters, that'd be awesome too.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a Midnight Suns project would probably be farther down the road. I mean, I agree. I think we're definitely going to get something with Blade, and I'm really looking forward to hearing that, considering we've already heard his voice in Eternals.
Right, and he only got like 10 seconds of attention the last time Marvel went to Comic-Con. At the very end, they announced that Mahershala Ali was playing Blade. He just put on the cap, and like that was the end of their panel. So the character is owed much more this go-around, for sure. So great answer, Miranda. Congrats for winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week. And now that that's done, on to the news. All right, this past week, we got our first look at Tenoch Huerta, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he is a Mexican actor who will be playing Namor the Submariner in the upcoming Wakanda Forever movie. Allegedly, the Atlanteans are going to be the antagonists in that film, potentially teaming up by the end of the movie, but the way the MCU has reimagined Atlantis is that it's going to be within the Gulf of Mexico as part of like a lost Maya or Aztec-esque civilization that was sunk undersea. I think it's a fascinating cultural angle for this, considering that in most cases Atlantis is portrayed as being Grecian. This reimagining has me really excited because the design of this is fucking badass. I'm just going to say it.
Well, yeah, I mean, Atlantis is a Greek myth, I think, first told by Plato. So this Mayan angle is very interesting, and it's been a rumor for a while. To actually see the character with this like Mayan garb is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it adds a great bit of representation too, considering we don't have many Hispanic superheroes. Like the biggest Hispanic presence we have in the MCU, I think, is Luis from the Ant-Man movies, who's played for Comic Relief. So it'll be nice to see like a Latino badass within the MCU.
I also like the idea of Atlantis as like an enemy nation to Wakanda, considering they're both sort of like mythic kingdoms, you know? They're both hidden, they're both like technologically advanced, I'm assuming. So there's parallels there. Maybe the meteorite that hit the Yucatan is what sunk Atlantis.
That's a valid theory. I bet you that's what they go with. But it'll be interesting to see how the Atlanteans mutated into being underwater breathers.
I also really like the idea of Namor being the bad guy, considering he's always kind of been an asshole in the comics.
Yeah, he's definitely the bad boy of the Marvel Universe who's dabbled in being a villain from time to time. If you don't know much about Namor, you could learn more about him in our Aquaman versus Submariner Duel episode.
I've never really liked his look, I'll be honest. Just like the whole elfish creature in green underwear with the weird-ass random wings on his ankles. But he looks really cool here.
Yeah, they nailed the design. Like, he's even wearing, like, the green trunks, kind of. And he has, like, the golden gauntlets and these, like, bicep bands. He's wearing the decorative Mayan collar and these awesome winged sandals. I don't know if the wings are a part of his sandals or if they're coming out of his ankles like they do in the comics. It looks awesome either way.
I can't even lie. It looks really cool. Not as cool as Jason Momoa as Aquaman, mind you, but still really cool.
All right. Overall, it looks pretty cool. I give it like 11 out of 10. It's better than I thought it was going to be when I first heard that Tenoch Huerta was going to be cast in the role and that they were going for an ancient Mayan angle with the Atlantean civilization.
Actually, my whole meteor speculation may not actually be true, because I honestly think that Druig is the one who started the Atlantean race in the Eternals.
Oh, that's right, because he spent a lot of time in Mexico, huh? That's a solid theory, too. I like both ideas. Of course, we'll see what happens when the Black Panther movie comes out, or maybe we'll find out as soon as Comic-Con. Either way, I'm excited to see Namor in action. Can't wait.
In DC news, we got our first look at the animated film Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons. It was the first trailer for the film that's coming out in mid-October. If you're not familiar with the Super Sons, this was a fairly recent comic that stars Damian Wayne, who is Batman's son, and Jonathan Kent, who is Superman's son. They meet, and then they form a partnership, and they go on a whole bunch of adventures, and this looks like this is their first one. What struck me right away about this trailer is the animation style. It's 3D animation, but the shading on it is flat. So when it's still, it looks almost like a 2D kind of approach. It's different from the current animation style that's in like their new DC universe that we saw in like Superman Man of Tomorrow and Batman The Long Halloween.
Yeah, it's more similar to what they did in Batman Ninja.
Yes.
Although this looks a little bit smoother and isn't anime styled.
It's a little bit smoother. They're definitely doing a dropped frame rate approach to the animation style, which lends a little bit more like old school kind of charm to it. It's not as fluid as a lot of other 3D animation, I would say. I don't honestly hate it. I mean, the faces can look kind of goofy and kind of like dead-eyed sometimes. Yeah. But other than that, it's not terrible. I do like the 3D environments that they have around them that definitely aren't cel-shaded. They're very detailed, which is kind of what you tend to see in anime.
Yeah, I think the animation style does lend itself well to action, though. Like the action that we get a glimpse of here does look like it's going to be pretty spectacular.
And it should be, considering we're dealing with Damian Wayne, who's like a ninja badass, and, you know, Jonathan Kent is pretty powerful in his own right. I'm kind of surprised to see that Starro is the villain of this film, considering we recently had Starro as the villain in the live-action The Suicide Squad film from last year.
Yeah, it almost seems like a Starro oversaturation.
What's kind of interesting with this, though, is that it looks like Starro can actually possess people from inside of them. Like, seeing him crawl out of people's mouths in this trailer is pretty freaky.
Yeah, and then attached to their face. I think it adds a nice Invasion of the Body Snatchers element, considering you don't necessarily know who's controlled by a Starro probe or not.
Absolutely.
But I always thought the appeal of Starro was kind of the fact that you could tell who's been assimilated because of the starfish on their face.
Well, you get like the best of both worlds here.
Yeah, that's true.
I have no idea how they're going to stop a Starro-possessed Superman and Batman, so I'm looking forward to see how this movie turns out.
It looks like the whole Justice League and Teen Titans get possessed.
Yeah, they're taking on everybody. Of course, DC does great animation, so I have high hopes for this one. But speaking of which, that brings us to our question of the week. What is your favorite Marvel or DC animated feature film, and why?
Yeah, of course there have been a lot more DC animated films than Marvel's, but there are a lot of great options to choose from both sides.
And take note that we said feature film, not TV series.
Yeah. Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message can be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and award that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to Instagram. Be sure to answer before July 9th.
Moving on to another DC animated project, Season 3 of Harley Quinn is debuting at the end of this month, and we got our first teaser trailer for it this past week. If you haven't seen the show, it actually debuted on the DC Universe app when that was a thing, but by Season 2, it was already on HBO Max. And it's a great show. It's like legit hilarious every episode. Next to Rick and Morty, it's Harley Quinn as like one of my favorite laugh out loud animated series currently going.
Yeah, it looks like this season is going to focus heavily on Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy's new relationship. I guess season 2 was all about them finding their way to each other, and season 1 was about Harley getting over the Joker.
Exactly. Yeah, as a fantastic cast of characters, including like King Shark and Clayface.
Yeah, speaking of Clayface, he has this hilarious moment in this trailer with James Gunn, like the actual director James Gunn, as an animated character. And it's his voice, too.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I'm not sure if he's involved with this season at all, but it's cool that he was able to make a cameo.
He was like, James Gunn, sit on me. And he does.
It's pretty raunchy, the show, and they definitely leaned into that in this trailer.
It looks like it has a lot of sex jokes. I'm here for it, though. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely in the show. It's not all it is. I would say the humor is smarter than that. A lot of the times, most of the time, it's like Rick and Morty, you know? I mean, it's not sci-fi like Rick and Morty, but it's funny like Rick and Morty. You actually haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, I'm going to try to binge the other seasons by the time we get around to reviewing this one.
I can't wait to see King Shark again. I can't wait for Kite Man. I'm really looking forward to the Court of Owls this season, which looks like it's a knockoff of like Eyes Wide Shut, which is hilarious. I love the interpretations they give for some of these characters. These are like the funniest interpretations I've seen of these characters, especially like Jim Gordon, who's like an alcoholic. It just works. Swamp Thing apparently is going to be in this season. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with him. Amanda Waller even pops up at the very beginning of the trailer. I actually think she might be like the main bad guy of this season. Just speculating. But Harley and Ivy joining the Suicide Squad, I think, would be good times for this series. And maybe King Shark, too.
We also get a shot of Batman either going down on Catwoman or giving her a foot massage. But he's like, shall I continue? And she's like, man, not worth it. And I'm like, oh, shit. I wonder if they're trying to capitalize on like the whole controversy where one of the DC publishers says that Batman doesn't go down or something.
Yeah, they're definitely playing up on that. I mean, if anyone's going to make fun of it and do it in a funny way, it's going to be this show.
Batman's just a selfish lover.
I'm sorry, how dare you? Batman is a giver. It looks like this season is only going to be 10 episodes long, so we'll be reviewing it in October. And I can't wait for you to see it, and I can't wait to talk with you about it.
But I think that does it for all the news for this episode, so let's go ahead and get into our main event, where we find out who would win in a fight between DC's Power Girl and Marvel's Valkyrie. All right, Power Girl versus Valkyrie. Now, a while ago, when we first learned that there was going to be another Thor movie and that it would feature Jane Foster's version of Thor, we were trying to find out a good match for her. And we figured that Power Girl, being kind of a version of Supergirl, would be a good match because it would kind of feel like Superman versus Thor. But then the comics made a surprising twist where Jane Foster was no longer Thor because Thor became worthy of his hammer again, and the power of Valkyrie was passed on to Jane Foster. And I've been a big fan of the Valkyrie character. She was always a prominent defender, and she showed up in the Thor Ragnarok movie, and she was also another character that we were trying to get a duel with. So it's kind of like we were able to blend Jane Foster's Thor with the Valkyrie and still retain that battle against Power Girl.
Yeah, and I've been looking forward to doing a duel episode with Power Girl for a long time. She's a pretty big character in DC, and I'm kind of surprised it's taken us this long to get to her.
Yeah, I don't want to sound crass, but she always stood out to me in the JSA comics. I don't know if I could politely describe why, but anyone who knows the character of Power Girl probably knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get into that. We will get into that. If you've never listened to one of our Duel episodes before, the way we determine a winner between these two characters is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using their statistics. A Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling.
And in our case, it randomizes statistics along a normal distribution, which is a bell curve, as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters we use are based on the official Marvel Power Grid, and we use that criteria to extrapolate the DC character stats. We've included some additional stat categories of our own, such as range, damage potential, versatility, and perception, in order to create a more complete and robust simulation.
Running these 1,000 simulations gives us a percentage of wins for each character, and we declare the one with the higher percentage to be the ultimate victor, considering that they're more likely to win any given battle. No character ever wins 100% of the time. Comics have shown that there's usually a way for Batman to defeat Superman, and we feel our method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the comic book stories.
And we use this method because it was the least subjective, most unbiased way to determine who would win. Of course, we were both heavily biased toward our respective allegiances, so instead of debating these matches forever, we just let math decide for us. There are no fan votes here, and no relying on just feats.
Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1,000 simulations we run would play out beat for beat. And I believe it's my turn to go first with the DC character's backstory, so let me tell you all about Power Girl. In the Earth 2 universe, the infant Kara Zor-El, cousin to Superman, was placed in a spaceship by her father and jettisoned off the planet Krypton just before it exploded. Her ship was not as fast as her cousin's, however, so it took about 20 years longer for her ship to arrive on Earth. And though her ship wasn't built for speed, it was designed as a symbio ship, and built for prolonged stasis with built-in artificial intelligence and virtual reality that allowed her to interact, grow, and learn with virtual versions of her parents and family on a simulated Krypton. By the time Kara landed on Earth, she was a young adult woman. Her cousin, the Earth 2 version of Superman, at this point was married to Lois Lane, and the couple took Kara into their home and helped her adjust to life on Earth outside of her symbio ship's virtual reality. Even though they were cousins, Kara regarded Superman and Lois as an uncle and aunt, and they regarded her like a daughter, though they kept her a secret from the superhero community and the world until she was ready to emerge into it. When it came time for Kara to start using her powers for the benefit of mankind, she decided not to become a derivative of Superman and chose the superhero identity of Power Girl, unlike her Earth 1 counterpart who became Supergirl, whom you can learn more about in our Supergirl vs. Captain Marvel episode. Earth 2 Superman was a member of the Justice Society. This was prior to the Justice League of America, and Supergirl helped the JSA for several missions before becoming Superman's replacement on the team. In her day-to-day life, she befriended a newspaper reporter named Andrew Vinson, and she took on the identity of a computer programmer known as Karen Starr. She became close friends with Helena Wayne, aka the Earth 2 Huntress, and the daughter of Batman and Catwoman, and the two of them became founding members of Infinity Inc., a super team composed of the children of the JSA. Not long after the team's formation, the Crisis on Infinite Earths event converged the multiverse into a single dimension, one in which did not yet have a Kara Zor-El. Kara's history was altered so that she was now, seemingly, an Atlantean and the granddaughter of an ancient Atlantean sorcerer named Ariana. Power Girl awoke in the new universe with only vague memories of her past and was told that she had been frozen in suspended animation for millennia. To learn more about her Atlantean past, Power Girl traveled to Skataris, a dinosaur-roamed alternate dimension accessible through the Earth's core that had been colonized by the Atlanteans.
Is this like the center of the Earth thing that the Aquaman movie did?
Yeah, I think they were trying to allude to that.
Interesting.
Though she grew to call the land home, she was called back to Earth by the Greek Fates and joined the Justice League Europe to battle a villainous and mystical Lord of Order known as the Grey Man. Power Girl was mortally wounded by his magic, though Superman was able to perform life-saving surgery on her and she survived, albeit with degraded powers that would take decades to recover. Prior to the formation of the Birds of Prey, Barbara Gordon, as Oracle, first recruited Power Girl as her field agent, though on Power Girl's debut mission, Oracle's inexperience resulted in a large number of lives lost, and Power Girl quit their partnership. When Black Canary quit the JSA, she recommended Power Girl to be her replacement, and Power Girl became a member of the Justice Society once again. It was during her time on the JSA that her grandfather, Arian, revealed that she was not actually Atlantean, and not long after, Power Girl was kidnapped by Psycho Pirate, who tortured her by revealing multiple potential versions of her history. He eventually revealed to her the truth, that she was a Kryptonian survivor of the Lost Earth 2 universe. Not long after, during the Infinite Crisis event, the Earth 2 Superman and Lois Lane emerged from a pocket paradise dimension they had been living in, along with Earth 3's Alexander Luthor and Superboy Prime since the conclusion of the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. When Superman 2 and Lois found Power Girl, all of her memories were restored, though she was then immediately captured by Superboy Prime, who had sided with Alexander Luthor in an attempt to recreate the multiverse. Outside of Paradise, Lois succumbed to an unknown illness and died. Distraught, Superman 2 tried to stop Superboy and Alexander Luthor, but he was defeated by Superboy Prime and died in Supergirl's arms. Superman 2 and his Lois were buried along with the main Earth's Superboy, who sacrificed himself to stop Superboy Prime and Alexander Luthor. For a time, Power Girl teamed up with Supergirl, posing as Kryptonian superheroes Nightwing and Flamebird, respectively, to save the bottled Kryptonian city of Kandor from Ultraman. Once he was defeated, Power Girl rejoined the JSA and became the team's leader, during which time she learned that the multiverse had been restored. After searching the new Earth 2 for Superman, she ran into conflict with that universe's version of Power Girl, who blamed her for Superman's disappearance. Because the new Earth 2 had its own version of Power Girl, the main Power Girl decided to leave and returned to the main Earth with the JSA, also taking up her secret identity of Karen Starr once again and creating a successful company known as Star Enterprises. After a massive battle destroyed JSA headquarters, the team split into two teams, with Power Girl leading the more youthful team known as JSA All-Stars. During the Blackest Night, the Earth 2 versions of Superman and Lois emerged from their graves, forcing Power Girl to fight them before Mr. Terrific built a device that destroyed the Black Lantern zombies. You can learn more about Mr. Terrific in his duel matchup against Forge. After the Flashpoint event reset DC's continuity, Kara was originally the Supergirl of Earth 2, but was transported along with the Earth 2 Huntress to the main Earth by an interdimensional vortex during Darkseid's invasion of Earth 2. In an attempt to return to Earth 2, Huntress hacked into Wayne Enterprises and stole enough money to fund Star Enterprises, where Kara, as Karen Starr, oversaw interdimensional experiments that could potentially get them back to their home dimension. They eventually made their way back to Earth 2, only for that universe to be destroyed by Darkseid. When Dr. Manhattan undid the changes he made to the post-Flashpoint timeline that erased the JSA from existence, Power Girl re-emerged with the rest of the Justice Society. Now, powers-wise, like Superman, Power Girl has all of the abilities of a Kryptonian when it absorbs solar radiation, including flight, immense strength, speed, and durability. Power Girl also possesses super senses, she's able to hear and see vast distances, and she's able to see beyond the visible spectrum of light, giving her X-ray vision, though like Superman, she could also emit infrared heat from her eyes, aka heat vision. She could also contain vast amounts of air in her lungs, which she can expel all at once as super breath, and even freeze objects with it. She possesses a vast knowledge of technology, having been trained on the subject on a virtual Krypton, and she's also got Tiggo Bitties. That's Power Girl.
That's not a superpower.
I think it is. She could distract enemies with them.
It's the most gratuitous costume in all of comics.
Hey, man, if you got it, flaunt it. That's what I'm saying.
For what purpose as a superhero? Like, why would you need a big hole in the chest area practically?
Well, I think Jeff Johns established that she originally had intended to put a symbol there, but because she was just starting out and learning about herself, she just left the hole, intending eventually to fill it with something, but she never did.
So fill it with cloth or fill it with white. Like, don't just cut a hole out of your costume. Stupid.
She did for a time. Actually, she wore like this yellow and white costume for a while that didn't have the keyhole in her chest area. But I don't know if fans complained or what, because she eventually went back to having the hole.
Okay. Well, my impression of her backstory is that was hella confusing. She seems like Donna Troy or something, where there's just like way too much like fucking dimension hopping, weird origin retconning and shit.
Yeah, that's fair. I knew going into this that her backstory was going to be a challenge. I don't think it was as bad as Donna Troy's, but it's still kind of bad.
Basically, I understood her as an alternate universe Supergirl who was just part of the JSA and had a skeezy costume. And honestly, none of that changed with your backstory.
You didn't learn anything else about her?
Not really.
Wow. Okay, well, let me hear about Valkyrie's backstory. I'm sure this is going to be complicated with like two different characters.
Surprisingly, despite the fact that I'll be going into the history of Valkyrie and Jane Foster, it's less complicated. Let me get into it. Now, the story of Valkyrie began millennia ago, when the armies of Asgard first entered the realm of Midgard, aka Earth, to wage battle against a corruption that had spread there. In a walled city lived Brunhilde and her lover Sigmund, the bravest warrior in the land, who despite his fortitude, fell to Odin's spear. Upon Sigmund's death, Brunhilde threw herself over her true love's body and refused to leave the battle, even in the face of death. Her bravery opened Odin's eye to the courage of mortal beings, and he was inspired to give those who died with honor a place in Valhalla, the Asgardian realm of the afterlife. He turned Brunhilde into a Valkyrie, a warrior goddess who escorts spirits to Valhalla, and she took her love Sigmund's spirit into eternal paradise. Brunhilde became the leader of the Valkyrior, who dutifully served as consorts to the slain for centuries, though she longed for an adventure of her own. In the modern age, the Asgardian sorceress, the Enchantress, offered Brunhilde an opportunity to join her conquests, but she tricked the Valkyrie and trapped her spirit in a mystic crystal to do with it as she pleased. The Enchantress later bestowed Brunhilde's personality, appearance, and powers onto several mortal Earth women over the years, who became members of the Defenders superhero team and joined them in their adventures. You can learn more about the Defenders in our Suicide Squad vs. Defenders Duel episode. With the team, Valkyrie helped defeat villains such as Atuma, Red Ghost, and the Brotherhood of Mutants. Brunhilde's spirit did not become free from the possessed mortal women until one of them died in battle. From there, her soul found its way back to her trapped body, and Brunhilde escaped the mystic crystal. She then battled the Enchantress, confining her for a time to the same prison she had been trapped in earlier. Remembering her adventures with the Defenders, Brunhilde journeyed to Midgard and rejoined their team, fighting with them until her apparent sacrifice against the villain Dragon of the Moon. Her spirit simply returned to Asgard, however, where she stayed and returned to her duty as a consort to the fallen. Brunhilde fell in battle with the rest of the Asgardians, however, when the villain Loki caused Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods and destruction of Asgard, which you can learn more about in our Wonder Woman vs. Thor and Ares vs. Loki duel episodes. Brunhilde was later restored with the rest of the Nine Realms and her kind when Thor returned to Earth, and she joined the Secret Avengers, and later, the Asgardians of the Galaxy, which was an assembly of Asgard's allies across the universe to fight in the War of the Realms started by the Dark Elf Malekith. Brunhilde was slain in the fight alongside the rest of the Valkyrior, but her departing spirit transformed Jane Foster into the last Valkyrie, so the fallen warriors would still have an escort to Valhalla. Now, who is Jane Foster? Let's rewind a bit. Jane was a nurse who assisted in the private medical practice of Dr. Donald Blake, who is secretly Thor the God of Thunder in a mortal guise. Having encountered Thor in several of his adventures, Jane became infatuated with the God of Thunder, though her relationship with Donald Blake was more platonic. Thor longed to tell Jane about his dual identity, even marry her, but was warned by Odin against doing so. Unable to heed his father's orders, Thor eventually revealed that he and Donald Blake were one and the same, and Jane was brought to Asgard, the first mortal brought into the realm eternal. Odin commanded that if they were to marry, Jane would have to pass a series of tests to prove herself worthy of godhood. Confused by Asgard and its inhabitants and dangers, Jane failed Odin's test, and the Allfather sent her back to Earth with her memories of Thor erased. Eventually, both Thor and Jane moved on, Thor with his former love Sif, and Jane with Dr. Keith Kincaid on Earth, whom she married. She eventually became a doctor in New York, and ever attached to the world of superheroics, she volunteered to provide medical attention to those injured in the superhuman civil war between pro- and anti-government registration heroes. Her actions exacerbated her turbulent marriage, and she and Dr. Kincaid eventually divorced. After the return of the Asgardians after Ragnarok, she sought out the returned Thor, whom deep down she still loved despite her missing memories. She was diagnosed with cancer around the same time that Thor became unworthy of being able to lift his enchanted hammer Mjolnir anymore. Jane, however, secretly discovered that she was worthy, and she lifted the hammer to wield the power of Thor and turn herself into a goddess of thunder. When she wielded Mjolnir, she was all-powerful, but without the weapon, she was still dying of cancer and undergoing chemotherapy, which would actually purge from her body with every transformation. Jane joined the Avengers and helped defeat the likes of King the Conqueror, the Skrulls, Doctor Doom, and Hydra before her cancer grew so severe that she was forced to reveal her secret identity and that she would only be able to wield Mjolnir one last time. She picked up the hammer in all its finality to save Asgard from the villain Mangog, and though she saved the realm, she died in the battle. Jane was allowed to enter Valhalla, though after witnessing her sacrifice, Odin was able to resurrect her back on Earth. Jane then helped Thor realize his worthiness again, convincing him to reclaim his hammer. She later, however, came across a variant of the Mjolnir hammer from the Marvel Ultimate Universe, and was able to wield it in war against Malekith, the Dark Elf. This was the same war where Brunhilde and her Valkyrie died. So back at the present, Brunhilde made Jane Foster the last remaining Valkyrie, and Jane's hammer fell apart and recombined into a golden armband that she could shapeshift into any tool or weapon she needed. As the new Valkyrie, she rejoined the Avengers. And that's her backstory. Powers-wise, Jane as Valkyrie has been given the physiology of the former Asgardian warrior, meaning she is strong enough to lift up to 50 tons, can fly around the speed of sound, has enhanced durability, and enhanced senses. As a Valkyrie, she can perceive when someone is about to die via a death glow that surrounds them. She wears her mystical armband remade from the remains of an other-dimensional Mjolnir that can transform itself into a number of weapons or tools, such as a mace, flail, axe, sword, staff, shield, and even wings to fly. She's an experienced fighter from her time witnessing and being Thor, and being a doctor, she has an expert level knowledge of medicine and physiology.
I'm still confused how, when she got the Valkyrie power, her alternate dimension Mjolnir just fell apart and reformed.
It fell apart during battle. It broke when she swung and hit the eyeball out of King Laufey's head.
Oh.
And then it reformed as an armband.
Okay, interesting. I mean, not any less convoluted than Power Girl, considering how many freaking times Brunhilde died.
She died like twice. It was way less confusing.
I'm pretty sure she did more times than that. But now that we've got their histories and abilities out of the way, let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not the speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this fight could play out.
Yeah, we don't set any rules for this match, other than the characters don't know anything about each other going in, except that the other character is a threat that needs to be put down. And we say they start off about 50 meters apart in an environment that has no bearing on the match itself, because we don't take stats for the environment.
Plus, certain characters have advantages in some environments over others, and we want these characters to win on their own merit. So let's get into it. Power Girl and Valkyrie meet on the battlefield. Who goes first? I kind of feel like you've been going first a lot lately.
That's fine. That's okay. Because Valkyrie is going to start off this one because she's going to look at Power Girl and she's going to see the death glow around her. And she's going to be like, oh, okay, so Power Girl's going down.
No, bro. She actually sees the glow around herself, all right? So she's like, oh, shit, I'm going to die. And as she's, like, distracted, Power Girl's going to start off by blasting Valkyrie from a distance with her heat vision.
Okay, but as soon as like Valkyrie gets hit with this heat vision, she's gonna use her Vambrace armband thing to summon a golden shield that blocks the heat vision beam. And with her shield blocking it, she's gonna fly toward Power Girl, rushing at her with her wings, and she's gonna summon in her other hand a large golden mace that, upon reaching Power Girl, just knocks the shit out of her.
But is Valkyrie magic? Like her weapons?
She's like mythical, like Wonder Woman, so yeah.
Okay, because Power Girl, she's not great up against magic foes, because she has no defense against magic, just like Superman.
Right.
So that sucks. Maybe this was not a good match. Okay, well, I'm going to say that before Valkyrie even reaches Power Girl, she's just going to use her super breath to blow Valkyrie backward, just like she's going to be tumbling through the air because of her wings. And that's going to leave Valkyrie open to just getting slammed in the back at super speed.
All right, so Valkyrie gets knocked, but, as she does, she's going to transform her mace in one hand into a flail with, like, a really long chain. That's, like, one of her specialties in the comics, the really long flail. And she's going to whip that thing at Power Girl, and the chain is going to wrap around Power Girl's neck. So it's, like, trapping her, like, choking her. And then Valkyrie's going to change her shield into a spear. And with Power Girl trapped, Valkyrie hurls that thing at her, and it impales her right through her thigh.
Dang! Okay, so Power Girl, she's probably in a lot of pain, and her neck is wrapped in that chain. So I'm going to say that she's just going to spin really fast in place with super speed, with her arms stretched out in like fists, and that's going to yank Valkyrie in toward her by her flail's chain, and then Valkyrie's just going to get knocked away like really hard. And with this distance between them, that gives Power Girl enough time to yank the spear out of her leg, and now she wields a weapon too.
No, she doesn't. She can't wield it. All of Jane's weapons work like Mjolnir does, meaning Jane can just summon them back to her, yanking Power Girl toward her.
Wait, sorry, are you saying Power Girl can't even lift the spear?
I'm not going to say that because Jane's Vambrace is made from the ultimate Mjolnir, which Hulk, I remember, was once able to lift, not because he was worthy, but just through pure strength, which was stupid as hell.
Oh, wow. But I mean, Power Girl's worthy enough to wield these weapons anyway.
No, she's not.
Yes, she is.
Not with that outfit, she's not. But anyway, like Valkyrie, yeah, she summons her weapons back to her, so Power Girl gets pulled in with that spear.
No, she's just gonna let go of the spear then.
Okay, fine. But as Valkyrie's weapons return, she's going to turn them into a battle axe in one hand and a long sword in the other. And she's going to rush at Power Girl, swinging both of them like a Viking berserker, just slashing Power Girl up.
Dude, but like as Valkyrie is flying toward her, Power Girl, she's just going to fly backward while blasting her with her heat vision. Blasting her face, like her eyes, since like she has pinpoint accuracy when her heat vision is combined with her telescopic vision.
What?
Okay. So while Valkyrie is like temporarily blinded, Power Girl, she's just gonna zip behind her and just double fist like slam her downward real hard, just causing her to crash into the ground.
Well, that was lame. So Valkyrie is like in this small crater in the ground. But as Power Girl goes to follow up on her attack, Power Girl's probably gonna fly down toward her. As she's doing that, all of a sudden the axe that Valkyrie was holding comes flying up through the air, spinning like a tomahawk, because Jane threw it from the ground, and it lodges right into Power Girl's shoulder.
I mean, Power Girl, she's going to dislodge the axe right away, and she's going to cauterize the wound with her heat vision, so it doesn't bleed much.
Well, while she's taking the time to do that, Valkyrie gets up from the ground, and she, rockets up with her wings, sword drawn, and just runs it right through Power Girl, impaling her and ending this match.
No, because just before Valkyrie reaches Power Girl, she's just going to freeze Valkyrie with her freeze breath, and that's going to cause her, wings to fail, so she can't fly anymore, okay? So Valkyrie is going to be plummeting back to the ground, and Power Girl, she's just going to rush downward and slam her frozen body into the ground, shattering it into 1,000 pieces. So Valkyrie's dead.
No. An Asgardian's physiology is not fucking gonna be that affected by just cold temperatures, all right?
She's frozen.
They can deal with temperature extremes. So as Valkyrie is falling down and Power Girl grabs her, Valkyrie is just gonna shatter the ice that she's in just by flapping her wings and flexing,
Okay.
And since Power Girl's holding on to her, she's making that contact. right before they hit the ground, Valkyrie's going to transport both of them to the gates of Valhalla, because she can do that. She can teleport anybody to that realm. And there, at the gates, are the rest of the Valkyries and the new Valkyrier, who are like waiting there as backup. And the whole group of them just lay the smack down on Power Girl, just ganging up on her, finishing this match.
Dude, you think Power Girl is afraid of like a bunch of low-level Valkyries? No, she's not. She's gonna take them all on. Bring them all on. It's freaking Power Girl.
No. Power Girl can't take on Valkyrie and the whole Valkyrier. All right, they're gonna mess her up. And like, even if she was to try to hold her ground, like during the middle of that fight, like her titty pops out of her ridiculous costume. And they're gonna be like, "Damn, girl, your titty." And she's gonna be like distracted. She's like, "Oh no, whoops!" And they're gonna use that distraction to finish her off.
How did I know?
Okay.
No one is.
That was a stupid way to end a match. But either Power Girl gets demolished by Valkyrie and her Valkyrier, or Power Girl comes out triumphant. We'll go ahead and run the stats on these two characters and come back with the winner right after this.
Part of me feels like I've been waiting to do a Power Girl match for so long.
Her outfit's ridiculous, right? Everybody knows it. Like, they need to fix that shit. It's 2022.
I'm sorry, are you body shaming her? She should be able to wear whatever she wants without worrying about your male gaze.
That's fair. Okay, whatever.
Yes.
But we input the stats on these two characters. Power Girl definitely had the physical advantage, because even though Valkyrie has the physiology of an Asgardian, it doesn't quite hold up to the physiology of a Kryptonian. You know, Valkyrie can only lift like 50 tons. She's not as fast as Power Girl, and therefore doesn't do as much damage. Where Valkyrie shined, though, was like in evasiveness, because she could create shields with her Vambrace. And that's honestly kind of it. I thought Valkyrie was going to get the edge range-wise, because I completely forgot that Power Girl had heat vision.
Yeah, a lot of people forget that she's Kryptonian and has all of Superman's powers.
So in that regard, Power Girl actually had the range advantage. And then I thought, oh, but Jane is definitely smarter than Power Girl because she's a doctor.
Wrong again.
But I guess Power Girl is like this high-level computer programmer who can build complex machines for Mr. Terrific and shit, so...
Yeah, she's smarter than Superman because she had a more advanced education than him growing up. And, you know, she's made multi-million-dollar businesses and stuff like that. She's quite intelligent.
And then I was like, surely Valkyrie has her on versatility. But yeah, I mean, Power Girl, between her heat vision and her freeze breath, they ended up the same there as well. Because Valkyrie only really creates, like, handheld weapons. She doesn't do anything too complex that would give her that much of an advantage.
So with all of that considered, who do you think won the match?
I think it's going to be pretty close, but I think it's going to go to Power Girl by a little bit. And our Instagram followers agreed with us. Those who took the poll, 62% of them thought that Power Girl would win. I think the results will be around there, maybe.
Well, I have the results right in front of me. The winner of the matchup between Power Girl and Valkyrie is obviously Power Girl.
I mean, like, not that obviously, though.
Pretty obvious. She won 669 of the 1,000 simulated matches, giving her a win percentage of 66.9 compared to Valkyrie's, which was 33.1.
So 2/3 of the time, Power Girl wins over
Almost
Valkyrie's.
Exactly.
1/3, yeah. That's about right, I'm guessing. I was definitely disheartened when I remembered that not all Asgardians are as powerful as Thor. So it wasn't quite the Superman-Thor matchup that I was hoping for.
I do want to point out that Power Girl got this win despite degrading her durability stat to account for the weakness she would face going up against Valkyrie's weapons. So kudos to Power Girl.
I still think that Jane Foster as Valkyrie, I was always wondering how they were going to maintain Jane Foster's relevance in the comics when she was no longer Thor, and I'm really glad Marvel went down this route.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with Jane Foster at the end of the Love and Thunder movie. Like, I wonder if she'll end up becoming Valkyrie in the film.
It's possible. They can end it a few ways. Either they can keep Jane Foster as Thor, or they could actually have her die from cancer. Or maybe they could do what they did in the comics where Valkyrie dies and then Jane becomes the new Valkyrie. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm actually thinking the former. I think they'll keep Natalie Portman on as the all-new, all-different Thor in the MCU for a while. That's my guess.
And now I'm really thinking that Valkyrie probably ends up being one of Gore the God Butcher's victims, and then Jane takes over that role. That's my guess. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Because that does it for this duel. Let us know what you guys thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Instagram or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by checking out our show notes or visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And on our site, you can also find a link to our Patreon page where we offer ad-free episodes of the show, bonus content including top 10 episodes and bloopers, monthly live movie watch-alongs, and access to our Discord chat server. Again, check it out right after this episode at patreon.com/dynamicduel, which is linked in our show notes. Our lowest tier is only $2 a month, and that gets you access to a lot of stuff.
And for our next episode, as we said earlier, we're going to be reviewing Thor: Love and Thunder, the latest release by Marvel Studios. I'm really looking forward to it. I have my tickets. Jonathan, do you have your tickets?
I do not yet. I need to get them.
You better get on that shit. I bet you they're sold out in a lot of places.
I'll do it right now.
All right.
But that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, John Speas, Ken Johnson, John Starosky, Zachary Hepburn, Dustyn Balcom, Miggy Matanguihan, Brendan Estergard, Nathaniel Wagner, Levi Yeaton, Austin Wesolowski, and Nick Abanto for helping make this podcast possible. We'll talk to you guys next week. Up and away.
True believers.